truth, Zeke. If it weren't for the debt today, you'd still be dreaming about your English gird, wouldn't you?
Yes, I loved her. But I'm standing here with you, not with her.
Whose letter is that in your drawer? Naomi holds a folded envelope. It says Ezekiel. Put it back, Zeke answers. Do not touch it. You keep silent about her. You keep silent about everything. Do not scroll. The best part is still ahead. Subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. 6 months earlier, a focused hush rested over the small meeting house. Men in dark coats sat on the left, women in prayer coverings on the right. The service was nearing its end when Bishop Jonas Glick rose. "We have joyful news," he said evenly. "Brother Ezekiel Stoltzfus and Sister Naomi, widow of our brother Eli, have decided to marry. If it is God's will, the wedding will be at the end of next month." A soft rustle moved along the benches. Naomi lowered her gaze. Her cheeks warmed. Zeke clenched his hat. His heart thudded in his throat. "Let us pray for them," Jonas added, meeting the eyes of Abram Stoltzfus. Zeke's father gave the slightest nod, holding his old Bible close. After the closing prayer, the murmur rose again. The bishop came to Zeke first and set a heavy hand on his shoulder. "I am glad for you. The community will stand behind you." "Thank you," Zeke breathed. Abram stepped up beside them. "This is the right decision, son. The Lord will arrange everything." Zeke only nodded. Then Levi Glick sprang forward. His smile held no warmth. "Congratulations. Time to start a family, is it not? I will pray that the Lord heals old wounds." Zeke swallowed his reply. Levi melted back into the crowd. Outside, sisters greeted Naomi. Someone touched her shoulder. Someone whispered blessings. She held herself steady, though her eyes glistened. Hannah, Zeke's sister, came over. "I am here if you need to talk," she said softly. "Thank you," Naomi answered, trying to smooth the tremor from her hands. Abram and his son joined them. Abram addressed Naomi almost fatherly. "I am glad you and Ezekiel will make a home. That is what our Eli wanted. You will not be alone." "Thank you, Father Abram," she whispered. When the elders moved away, Naomi was left with Zeke. He kneaded the brim of his hat, avoiding her gaze. "Zeke, I know this is unexpected for you too," she began carefully. "The community wants it. And my father," he said shortly, "if it is for the best for everyone." "We shall see," he rasped. He grabbed his hat again. "Time to go. Father is already in the buggy." The words struck cold. Naomi gave the faintest nod. More looks fell on her, curious, sympathetic, judgmental all at once. She dabbed her eyes with a kerchief and followed. The black, shiny, covered buggy flashed in the sun. Abram already held the reins. Hannah hurried toward them, sending Naomi a warm smile. Zeke sat beside his father, stiff and silent. Naomi paused a heartbeat by the doorway of the barn where her future had just been announced. "Bridegroom," echoed in her head, blending fear with a fragile hope. She gathered herself, straightened, and climbed into the buggy. Evening at the Stoltzfus house passed in taut quiet. A simple meal on the table, spoons chimed against bowls. Abram sat at the head, Hannah to his right, Zeke to his left, Naomi beside Hannah. She barely ate, stealing glances at Abram's stern face and Zeke's dark one. "Let us pray," Abram said evenly. After the words of thanks, he offered a separate blessing for the new union. Naomi's heart tightened at the word. Marriage still sounded foreign. "Thank you for the food, children," Abram added. "It was good." Hannah briskly gathered plates. Naomi helped in silence. Abram looked at his son. "Zeke, check the cow. I thought she was limping." It was more order than request. Zeke nodded and left. The barn smelled warmly of hay. Mabel the cow chewed contentedly. Zeke ran a hand along her back, checked her hooves. All was well. "Good girl," he muttered. Among animals, he always felt at peace. With them, there was no need to choose words. Hannah appeared in the doorway with a lantern. "Is Mabel all right?" she asked. "Yes." She did not hurry to go. "And you?" "What about me?" Zeke grabbed a length of rope as if it urgently needed repair. Hannah waited in silence. Zeke sighed. I will manage. It is decided, so it must be. Do you want this? She asked gently. It is duty. Leaving Naomi would be a sin. Father asked. The community knows best. Perhaps it is better for you not to be alone either, Hannah said carefully. Since the time when? Do not, Zeke cut her off. No past. She touched his elbow. I only want you to find peace. Naomi is a good woman. You deserve a good life. It is harder for her, he said quietly. She loved Eli, and I. You loved once too, Hannah whispered. Enough, he pleaded. Go rest. Hannah went out. Zeke leaned his back against the wall. His eyes burned whether from the light or from dammed-up tears, he could not tell. After a minute, he put out the lantern and breathed the cold air outside. He had to pull himself together. In the house, Naomi and Hannah had already gone upstairs. Abram sat in a chair by the window and set aside his pipe. How is the cow? Fine, Zeke answered, sitting near the stove. For a few moments the coals crackled. You did right to agree, Abram said calmly. It has been almost a year since Eli passed. Naomi needs a steady arm, and you are the best I can imagine. Her family is near, but a husband is necessary. That is our way. Yes, father, Zeke said quietly. I remember you hesitated, his father went on. You said you could not replace Eli. No one is asking that. Give her a home, protection, your heart if you can. He paused, then added in a muted voice, I do not want you to stay single your whole life the way some men do. The hint hung in the air. 29 is late for an unmarried man in their community. There were reasons, but they were not spoken of. Zeke remembered every detail. 3 years ago, he had nearly gone out into the world for the sake of an English girl. They brought him back. He was shunned, then received again with conditions and with shame. Since then, he had worked in silence, lived straight, and never spoke of those days. It will be all right, he forced out. He did not believe it himself. Abram stood and laid a hand on Zeke's shoulder, the same heavy, steadying gesture the bishop had used earlier. I pray for you, son. You are responsible and upright. The Lord will give strength to you and to Naomi. Good night, Father. When his father left, Zeke opened his Bible. His eyes slipped over the underlined words. To everything there is a season. Perhaps it truly was time to gather stones and make peace. The loft smelled of fresh straw in the mattress. Sleep would not come. The day's roar would not quiet. The church before his eyes, Naomi's, if it is for the best, and then Levi's sibilant voice, the Lord will heal old wounds. Which wounds did he mean? How many still remembered? Enough to whisper, surely. The past never left him. Once he had thought love was escape. Now he thought it was better to hide love so no one would get burned. He respected Naomi, valued her quiet dignity, but honestly, it was not love. He pictured her face pale, fine-featured beneath a dark covering. She had once come into their home holding Eli's hand, and he had truly rejoiced for his brother. He had bound himself to her as to a sister, nothing more. He had buried his own heart 3 years before and had sworn not to touch the grave. He turned on his side and murmured a short prayer, for strength, for clarity, for the grace not to break Naomi. The small household sounds helped him think. Duty sounded solid. Love sounded dangerous. But what if duty was also love, only love that began with deeds rather than feeling? He did not know. Zeke squeezed his eyes shut. The yes he had said that day was not only to his father and the bishop. He had said it to himself, not to run a second time, not to betray his family, not to let Naomi be left alone among people again. He recalled the underlined verse once more. If there was a season for everything, then perhaps there would come an hour for warmth and trust. And if not, then there would at least be honest work, a roof and protection, that he knew how to give. Lord, he whispered in the dark, teach me to be a husband even when my heart is quiet. The morning went wrong from the very first small mishap. Naomi was carrying a milk jug. Zeke was coming in with firewood. They collided in the doorway. The jug jolted. A white arc splashed across the threshold. "Careful," she whispered, hugging the jug to her chest. "I am careful," he ground out. "The doorway is simply narrow." "Doorways do not grow narrow from fear," slipped out of her mouth. For a moment their eyes met. Hannah slid a baking board from the oven and coughed as if by accident. "Father said you two should go to the Baylors today. Things to arrange, the date, the lists." "All right," they answered at once, and looked away. The wagon rolled into the noon dust. "Thank you for driving," Naomi said, clutching a basket of cheese and bread on her lap. "I am driving because it is necessary." "I thought," she kept losing words like pins. "Do not think for me," he cut in and tightened the reins. "I have my own head." Silence stuck to the wooden seat. "After the wedding, will we stay in your house?" she asked carefully. "That is the decision," he said shortly. "There is enough room. I will put up a shelf." "For me, a shelf is—" She stopped. "I am afraid of being just a thing on it." His jaw jerked. "In our house, things are quiet. People sometimes must be quiet too." "Silence does not heal," she said. "It only scabs over." "Words cut," he said, glancing at her hands. In the Baylor's yard, Samuel wiped his brow and shook Zeke's hand, firm and businesslike. "Our daughter is not a thing and not a burden," he said calmly. "You must make agreements with her and walk beside her." "I understand," Zeke nodded. "I will try to do everything plainly and honestly." "I do not promise a smooth road," Samuel replied. "Will you manage?" "We will manage," Zeke said shortly. Rachel embraced Naomi. "You are tense," she said quietly. "Do not keep everything inside. Speak with him." "Yes, Mother," Naomi nodded. In the kitchen, they sat at the table and for half an hour discussed wedding details. When they carried out chests, Samuel held the doorframe so it would not scrape. Rachel handed Zeke a bundle. "A blanket for the evenings. Take it." "Thank you," he said simply. Mother gave Naomi a small jar. "Cinnamon. Bake something for tea, sit down together and talk." "I will bake," Naomi smiled. "I will tell him when it is ready." "I will come," Zeke nodded shortly. "From our district, there are 27. The pantry will bear it. Benches we will bring." "And will you bear it?" Rachel asked unexpectedly, without lifting her eyes. He fell silent. Naomi slowly set down her pencil. "We will all bear it, Mother," she said quietly, "each in our own way." While they loaded the chests, Zeke lifted the heavy one. Naomi took a lighter one. One caught on the threshold and scraped. He caught it at once. Their hands met on the wood, touched, and both snatched them back as if burned. "Thank you," Naomi said coolly. "Do not thank me," Zeke answered in the same tone. "I am not doing it for that." Samuel set his palm on the lid of the chest. "Take a pause. Lift it calmly and carry." They exhaled together and moved on. On the porch, Rachel handed Zeke a bundle. "A blanket for the evenings. Take it." Then she passed Naomi a jar. "Cinnamon for baking. Perhaps you will sit down over tea and talk." "That is not for me," Zeke muttered. "It will be useful for me," Naomi said. "I know the recipes." The road back was long. A car rumbled behind them, headlights sliced through the dust. "Hold on," Zeke snapped. The horse veered right. A wheel smacked into a rut. The buggy swayed. Naomi grabbed Zeke's arm. "Do not jerk. I am driving." Zeke raised his voice. The buggy straightened. Naomi withdrew her hand. "Do not shout at me." "I was afraid we would skid," he answered. "I am responsible for us." "Let us make agreements with words, not commands," she said firmly. He looked at her for a moment. "I am not a lie." "I know," Naomi answered, "and I am not a guest in your house. I am your future wife." Zeke said nothing. The horse pulled steadily on. In the yard, Abram glanced at them. "Inside," was all he said. In the morning, the mailman put 3 envelopes in the box. Naomi brought them into the house, a seed catalog, a letter for Abram, and an official envelope from the Bank of Lancaster in Zeke's name. I brought the mail, she said, laying it on the table. Abram picked up the bank envelope, and a visible tension ran through him. Thank you, daughter. Check whether the water is boiling, he said quietly. Naomi went out. Abram tore the envelope open. His face darkened. Zeke came in, wiping his hands. You called me. Abram held out the letter. Zeke ran his eyes over it. His stomach went cold. They will take the farm. If we do not pay, Abram sighed. I hoped they would wait. We plan to save up by the end of the year, Zeke's voice broke. The harvest is weak. There is less milk. There is no money, his father said quietly. We will ask the community fund. The bishop will guide us. No, Zeke snapped. I do not want everyone to know. There will be talk. This is exactly what Levy wants. I will find the money. We will sell the calf, or I will borrow from an Englishman. Debt on top of debt is a bad idea, Abram shook his head. Naomi appeared in the doorway with an empty bucket. Excuse me, I will not get in the way. It is all right, Abram said quickly and hid the letter. Only bills. Shall I bring cabbage for dinner? Bring it, he nodded. I will be back later, Zeke threw over his shoulder and hurried out. In the phone booth, Zeke dialed the bank. This is Ezekiel Stoltzfus. I am asking for an extension. The autumn sale of livestock and pumpkins. We need a little time. A pause. Sweat slid down his back. I understand, he forced out. Thank you. 3 weeks. Only 3. Where to find the sum? He stepped out and ran into Levy. Oh, just the man, Levy sneered. Problems. Get off my property. I am a member of the community. I am concerned that you are dragging us down. First your business with the English girl, now debts. Zeke's jaw locked. Shut your mouth. Or what? Will you run again? Or will you grab me by the vest the way you did at the station when you almost fled? Levy taunted. Zeke seized his vest and yanked him close. Get out and keep your tongue. Did you see that? Levy jerked free. Amish at his fists. I will tell the bishop, and Naomi should know as well. One more word and Zeke growled, but dropped his hands. Poor Naomi, Levy tossed and drove off. Zeke shook with anger and shame. In the entryway, he almost collided with Naomi carrying cabbage. Are you angry? She asked, alarmed. Forgive me. I did not see you, he muttered. What happened? You are pale. Everything is fine. Do not bother me, he said sharply. He walked past and slammed his bedroom door. Naomi froze. She bit her lip in pain. Something happened, and he will not let me near it. Zeke sat by the window and wiped his face. His breath came ragged. On the sill lay a wooden box. He opened it. A yellowed letter. Dear Ezekiel, I understand why you are staying. I cannot live in your world, but I love you, Anna. His eyes stung. 3 years had passed, and the squeeze still came. He hid the letter and clenched his fists. Levi, blast him, will spread it all over the community. He rose. His heart hammered, but his thought was clear. In 3 weeks, either he would find the money or he would leave the community himself before they threw him out, and before Levy could turn Naomi into a target. He opened the window and let in the cold. He looked down into the yard. Naomi was hanging towels, glancing now and then at the house. He wanted to go down and tell the truth, but his throat tightened. First the money, then the talk. I will not let her sink with me. Toward evening, heavy gray clouds sagged low over the golden fields. After the tense afternoon, Naomi could not sit still. Instead of supper, she slipped out of the yard and followed the path to the small graveyard beyond the orchard. There, under an old sprawling willow, Eli rested. Passing between rows of simple wooden crosses, Naomi knelt at her husband's grave. The damp earth soaked through her skirt, but she did not care. She laid her palm on the cold stone carved with Eli Stoltzfus and closed her eyes. Eli, she whispered, barely holding back tears. What am I to do? I have tried to be strong the way you once asked, but I do not know whether I can go through this a second time. Her voice broke. She bent her forehead against the rough grave marker. I thought it would be better for everyone, that your brother would care for me, and that you would rest more peacefully in heaven. But it seems we are only hurting each other. Lord, show me the way. Her words slipped into a whispered prayer that dissolved into sobs. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. Startled, Naomi wiped her eyes with her sleeve and turned quickly. Among the markers stood Zeke. He approached hesitantly, hat in hand, worrying the brim. His face held an inner storm, restless eyes, tight mouth. I am sorry, I did not mean to frighten you, he said quietly. It is just, you were gone a long time, and I grew worried. Naomi struggled up to her feet. Her knees were numb from the cold ground. She held Zeke's gaze. Tears still shone in her eyes, but her voice was steady. That is not what scares me, Zeke. Your behavior today does. What happened? Why do you push me away? Zeke lowered his eyes like a child caught doing wrong. The willow behind him stirred in the breeze, letting fall yellow leaves. I did not mean to, he said hoarsely. Forgive me if I hurt you. It is not only about hurt, Naomi stepped closer. There is a wall between us. I reach toward you. I start to speak. You go silent and step back. Am I doing something wrong? Do I bother you? Are you ashamed of me? Or are you only enduring this marriage because it is expected? Tell me honestly, because I no longer understand how to be with you or where my mistake lies. The despair in her voice stabbed Zeke's heart. He took a strained breath. He glanced at Adela's grave as if asking his brother's forgiveness too. Then he dared to meet Naomi's eyes. You have done nothing, he said in a rough whisper. It is me. I have too many problems to drag you into them. Naomi frowned, not understanding. What problems? What are you talking about? Debts, Zeke blurted. The farm. We could lose it, do you understand? Her eyes flew wide. Why did you keep silent? We could have thought it through together. My parents would help, the community. No, he cut in, more sharply than he intended. No one must know. I cannot allow our trouble to become gossip. But we are a family, she whispered helplessly. Am I a stranger to you? Zeke shook his head, feeling the talk veer far from what he had intended. You are not a stranger, it is just, he gave a bitter half-smile. You think that is the main thing? Money? No, Naomi, it is something else. Naomi's heart started to pound in her throat. She feared the next words, yet she had to hear them. Something else? Zeke closed his eyes for a moment. Here it was the decision he had made. He had to speak the truth and set her free. It is me, he said low and tense. It is what I am. I am not worthy of you. Naomi shook her head in astonishment. The ribbon on her covering fluttered. What are you saying? The truth, Zeke sighed. I am not the man you deserve. I nearly betrayed the faith and the community 3 years ago. And now again, he bit his tongue before saying too much. Naomi searched his face as if seeing him for the first time. Is it about that girl? She asked unexpectedly, and Zeke flinched at her directness. The one Levy hinted about. He winced and covered his face with his hand. He told you, Zeke forced out, not at all surprised that Glick had failed to hold his tongue. No, Naomi said, but I guessed. Zeke lowered his hand and nodded bitterly. Yes, it is true. I fell in love with a girl, not from our people. An English girl. I was a foolish young man. I thought I would leave everything and go with her. They stopped me in time. Father, the bishop. He remembered the night they all but dragged him home from the station where he had been saying farewell to Anna. I came back, but I brought shame on my family. They shunned me for a few weeks. Then they forgave me, but they did not forget. Naomi listened, holding her breath. A cold wind tugged at her skirt, but she did not feel it. That is why you were alone, all this time, she said softly. Why you did not marry, because my heart was not free, Zeke finished for her. But that heart is beyond my reach now. I lived these 3 years as if in a dream. I worked, I prayed, and I thought, it will always be this way. Then, Eli died. I thought it was my test, that perhaps this way I would wash my sin. He bowed his head. His voice broke on words he had never said aloud. And instead I brought only trouble with me. Debts, shame. Levi is right. You did not deserve this. Confusion wrapped around Naomi's soul. She stepped close, searching the pain and self-reproach twisting his face. You are wrong, she said firmly. Do not you dare decide for me what I deserve and what I do not. But, he began, and she did not let him finish. I knew you were not a saint, Zeke. We all have a past. Yes, I loved Eli. I still love his memory. You loved someone too. That does not make you bad. Zeke shook his head, but Naomi pressed on, her voice growing steadier. Every day I see how you work, how you care for your family. You are a good son, a good brother, and, she faltered for a heartbeat, you were a good brother-in-law to me when I was left alone. Her eyes grew wet as memories rose, Zeke silently patching her roof after Eli's death, bringing her favorite candy from the market to cheer her, sitting under her window at midnight while she cried, thinking no one could hear. He had supported her as he knew how quietly, without fuss, and she knew it. Do you not understand? She whispered. I am already grateful to you for everything, and I am not afraid of hardship, as long as you are by my side. Zeke stared, hardly believing his eyes. He could not find words, but she did not wait for them. And if you still love that girl, Naomi looked away, swallowing the knot in her throat. Then say so now. I will let you go. I will not keep near me a man whose mind is with another. Silence fell, only the wind whistling through yellow branches. Zeke opened his mouth, but no words came. Several long seconds passed. No, he said at last. No, I do not love her. That is, he stumbled, hunting for the right words. I love the memory of her, but that is past. He sighed bitterly. And what difference does it make whom I love or do not? In our marriage, that is not the main thing anyway. Naomi lifted her brows in surprise. Not the main thing, she echoed, a little offended. Then what is? Duty. Zeke looked uncertain. Are we not joined for duty's sake? He said, as if unsure of himself. Naomi drew a tiny breath and placed a hand to her chest. If that is what you think, then why agree at all? Her voice sharpened. Zeke felt both her pain and his own disappointment rise. Because it is required, he burst out. Because everyone expected it of me. Father, the community, you. Me? Her eyes flared. You think I forced you? Zeke fell silent, panting. He tried to gather his thoughts. No, she had not forced him. She had never asked for anything. He had loaded it on himself and now staggered under it. Forgive me, he whispered, clutching his hat to his chest like a shield. You are not to blame. It is just, I do not know what love in marriage is. I am not sure I can. He broke off, pressing his lips together. Naomi looked at him with wide eyes. Her anger ebbed and turned into unspoken sorrow. You are not sure you can love me, she finished his thought quietly. Is that it? Zeke said nothing. The truth tasted like bitter wormwood, yet he could not deny it. 2 tears slid down Naomi's cheeks. She gave the faintest nod. All right, she said tonelessly. Then perhaps there is no sense in our. Her voice failed, but Zeke understood. She had meant to say, marrying. A stab went through his chest. He ought to rejoice that she had said it for him. But no relief came, only emptiness. Naomi stepped back and covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook, she wept without sound. After a moment, she mastered herself just enough to lower her hands and whisper. Perhaps this is God's sign to us, that we are making a mistake. She looked at Zeke through tears. In her gaze lay farewell and unspeakable pain, as if she were parting now with him, and with the hopes that had perhaps taken root in her heart over these weeks. That Zeke could not bear. Something snapped inside him. He stepped forward. Naomi, no. The word broke from him, full of a pleading he had never heard in his own voice. Without thinking, he set his hands gently on her shoulders. She did not pull away, only flinched at the sudden touch. Do not say that. Please, his voice shook. Do not turn away from me. Naomi looked at him in surprise. Her lips trembled slightly. But you yourself. I am a fool, Zeke whispered, leaning closer. Ruining things is the one thing I am good at. I am simply afraid. Afraid of what? She breathed. Afraid I cannot make you happy, he confessed. Afraid I will fail again. Afraid of myself, do you understand? He spoke quickly, feverishly, as if fearing interruption. Naomi drank in every word. I do not know how to love rightly, he murmured, eyes dropping. I forgot how to let someone into my heart. I locked it. But you. He lifted his hand and with his fingertips brushed a damp strand of hair that had slipped from beneath her covering. You deserve love. He did not finish. Naomi laid her fingers on his lips to stop the flow of self-reproach. Her heart pounded at her own boldness, but it was the only way to reach him. Hush, she whispered gently. Say nothing more. For a while they stood in silence, so close they could hear each other's unsteady breathing. Naomi lowered her hand, and Zeke hesitantly slid his palm along her cheek, wiping away a salty tear. Forgive me for everything, he said hoarsely. I truly meant to protect you, and I nearly made it worse. We are both at fault, she answered, with a quiet hiccup of a sob. We were both afraid to open our hearts. Zeke nodded, then with new courage drew her into his arms. Naomi did not resist. For the first time he embraced her firmly, truly, knowingly. She felt how loudly his heart beat beneath the plain linen shirt. She wept against his chest, but these were different tears of relief and a still, piercing joy that threaded the pain. Do not cry, he whispered above her ear. Please do not cry. I am with you if you want me. I want that, came her answer, muffled by his shirt. Very much, Zeke. Warmth spread through him at her words. He lifted her chin in his palm, asking her to look at him. Naomi's eyes shone against the twilight sky. The cross on Ele's grave stood nearby, but in that moment Zeke saw only her face. A puff of wind stirred the branches above them, and the first drops of rain touched the ground. Naomi did not blink. She gazed into Zeke's eyes, where a gentle fire had at last lit. Her heart told her that for the first time he had allowed himself to feel. At last he bent and, with reverent care, touched his lips to her forehead, brief, timid. The kiss was light as the brush of an autumn leaf. The earth tilted beneath Naomi's feet. She closed her eyes. Zeke stepped back a pace, searching her face for a sign. Through tears, a tender smile opened on Naomi's lips. She took his hand. It is time to go home, she said softly. Zeke nodded and, not letting go of her hand, walked quickly with her along the path out of the graveyard. The rain thickened, but they did not mind. That evening their hearts filled with warmth and hope, perhaps for the first time in truth. The wedding day dawned clear and fair despite the late autumn chill. Early in the morning, the Stoltzfus farmhouse parlor swelled with women's voices, neighbors and relatives helping Naomi dress. The bride stood before the mirror in a simple yet elegant sky blue dress that she and Hannah had sewn over the past few weeks. Over the dress, she wore a fresh white apron, a symbol of purity. Her hair was neatly gathered beneath a new snow-white covering, meaning she was ready to enter marriage. You are so beautiful, dear, whispered Rachel Baylor, dabbing away a treacherous tear of joy with her kerchief. She straightened a fold on Naomi's shoulder. Beautiful as an angel, one of the aunts agreed, smiling. Blushing, Naomi thanked them. She felt a flutter, but not the cold fear that had plagued her so recently. Today, her heart beat with the anticipation of a quiet happiness mixed with a bride's natural tremor. In another room, Zeke prepared as well. Abram himself fastened his son's collar and squared his shoulders. Eli would be glad for you, the father said quietly, watching Zeke adjust his hat. Today, he wore a new coat and his best trousers, wedding clothes sewn for the day. "I hope I do not fail, father," Zeke answered, drawing a deep breath to steady himself. For the second time that morning, he wiped his damp palms on his trousers. Abram placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have grown up, son," he said with pride. "I am proud of you." Zeke nodded gratefully. He remembered all the trials it had taken to reach this day. A small smile tugged at him. For the first time, the thought of marriage did not frighten him, but pleased him. Naomi waited for him, not as a burden, but as a partner, a friend, a future wife whom he respected, and toward whom he felt deep tenderness. Soon the spacious, festively dressed barn filled with people. Relatives came from their district, and the surrounding ones about 200 guests. The Amish sat on long benches in rows, men separate from women, as is proper. Up front, before the congregation, stood the bride and groom. Naomi lowered her eyes and listened to Bishop Jonas's message. He read from Scripture about marriage, about love and mutual submission between husband and wife. His voice was solemn. At her side, Zeke stood straight, hands folded. From the corner of his eye, he saw Naomi's profile calm and focused. He wanted to touch her hand in support, but that was not possible then. He only sighed quietly, grateful to God for the moment. After a long service, the couple exchanged vows before the community. The words were simple, a promise to love, honor, and care for one another, to be faithful in the faith. There were no kisses or embraces, only a light handshake after the bishop's blessing. But that was enough for a wave of happiness to pass through Naomi's heart. She met Zeke's gaze and saw a warm smile in his eyes, barely noticeable to others, clear to her. At noon, everyone moved to the wedding table. Long wooden tables in the barn groaned under food, traditional chicken noodle soup, roast, homemade bread, pies, and other sweets. The community cheerfully served, shared, and talked. Laughter and joyful wishes for the couple filled the air. Zeke and Naomi sat side by side, receiving congratulations. Men shook Zeke's hand, wishing blessings in married life. Women embraced Naomi and whispered good counsel. Hannah, moved to tears, kept wiping her eyes, rushing first to her brother, then to her new sister-in-law with hugs. "Take care of each other," she repeated, and Naomi and Zeke answered with smiling nods. Levi Glick was among the guests as well, sitting a bit apart with a stone face beside his uncle Jonas. He avoided the couple's eyes. The bishop seemed not to mind his nephew's mood. After the meal, Jonas rose and spoke a prayer of thanks, then a few words. "Today we have witnessed a good and godly union. May the Lord bless Ezekiel and Naomi in their married life. They have passed through losses and trials, but have remained faithful to the Lord's way. Now, as one flesh, let them support one another and face hardships together. The community is always near to help." His gaze slid toward Levi, as if the hint was meant for him as well. "Let us rejoice in this day and in the new family within our circle." The guests voiced their approval, echoing the bishop's words. Under the table, Naomi touched Zeke's hand and gave a gentle squeeze, a sign of thanks and of agreement with every word. He covered her hand with his own, untroubled. If anyone saw, there was nothing improper in such clean closeness. By evening, as the guests began to leave, the sky cleared again after a brief midday rain. The setting sun threw slanting rays across scattered clouds. In the yard, the buggies were being readied. Children, laughing, splashed through puddles the horses had left in the damp earth. Naomi stepped outside for air after the long table sitting. She looked around. Her new large circle of family stood nearby. Hannah and the other girls gathered dishes. Abram on the porch thanked guests for coming. A little off to the side, her parents chatted with neighbors. So many familiar faces, so many dear people, and all of them had witnessed God shaping a new wonder out of wounded hearts. She lifted her eyes to the evening sky. Not long ago, she had felt like a lonely widow. Now she was a wife with a husband beside her, ready to share both joy and sorrow. "What are you thinking about?" came a familiar voice. Zeke had approached quietly and stood beside her. Dusk had thickened, and his face, softened by a smile, glowed in the lamplight above the door. I am only looking at how well everything has turned out, Naomi answered honestly. I thank God for it. Zeke nodded, glancing upward as well. So do I, he said. Then, a little shyly, he added, and I thank you. Naomi looked surprised. Me? For what? For believing in me, he said, eyes dropping. If it were not for you, I would not be this happy today. Warmth flowed through Naomi's heart at his words. She stepped closer and took his arm. We are both happy now, she said, and ahead there is much work. Tomorrow we return to everyday tasks. We must think how to pay the debts, how to get through the winter. She spoke matter-of-factly, but Zeke heard not fear in her voice, but resolve. He saw that she no longer feared the future, nor did he. Together we will manage, he said with quiet confidence. In the morning I will take you to town, and we will open a joint account at the bank. Father accepted help from the church fund. The debt will be covered. We will pay it back bit by bit. It is all right. Naomi smiled. That is a good decision, she said. You see, you are no longer afraid to ask for help when it is needed. Zeke lifted one shoulder. I have someone to strive for. They fell silent, smiling. Their hearts felt light and glad. A knot of children dashed by, playing hide and seek among the buggies. One little boy stumbled and fell at Naomi's feet. She quickly lifted him and helped him stand. He thanked her and ran on, and Naomi watched him with a gentle smile. Without thinking, her hand dropped to her abdomen, stroking through the fabric of her dress. Zeke noticed the gesture. A tender ache touched his heart at the thought that perhaps soon they would have children of their own for Naomi to hold so kindly. He covered her hand with his. Well then, Mrs. Stoltzfus, he said in playful formality, speaking her new last name softly, it is time to call it a night. The guests are leaving. Soon we should rest as well. Indeed, Mr. Stoltzfus, she laughed back, feeling a pleasant tremor at the words. They walked slowly across the yard, unhurried. Autumn leaves rustled underfoot. Ahead, the threshold of their home came into view. Zeke paused to open the door for her. The lamplight inside shone warm and welcoming. Naomi crossed the threshold, her heart swelling with gratitude. Catching up, Zeke said quietly, Welcome home, Naomi. She turned to him, her husband, her partner, and knew she had nothing to fear. A shared road lay ahead. From now on, they would take each new step together. Subscribe to our channel so you will not miss anything, because this is nothing compared with what is coming next. If you are under 18, do not even think about pressing next.